During the summer of 1889, roughly 2.5 years after the premiere of Otello, Verdi casually mentioned to Boito that Shakespeare's The Merry Wives of Windsor would make a wonderful comic opera, and that the character of Sir John Falstaff was a particularly good comic study. Well, that was all Boito needed to hear. Within just a few days, Boito delivered a draft scenario entitled Falstaff, and Verdi loved it. On July 7th, 1889, the nearly 76-year-old Verdi wrote Boito and expressed both his delight and his misgivings about getting involved in yet another opera project. We quote that letter. Benissimo, benissimo. No one could have done the scenario better than you. However, in sketching Falstaff, did you consider the large number of years in my age? I know perfectly well that you will answer me by exaggerating the state of my health, saying that it is good, excellent, and robust. And that is true. All the same, you will agree with me that I could be accused of great rashness in taking on such a job. And what if I were not able to hold up under the work? And what if I were not to finish the music? Then you would have wasted so much time and effort for nothing. I would not want that for all the gold in the world, unquote. And that's the truth. Verdi adored Boito and didn't want to waste Boito's time. But having expressed his misgiving and actually thought about composing again, we are told that Verdi's depression lifted almost instantly and was replaced with genuine euphoria. On July 10th, 3 days after having written the just quoted letter, Verdi again wrote Boito, quote, "What a joy to be able to say to the audience, we are here again, come and see us. Amen, so be it. So let's do Falstaff. For now, let's not think of the obstacles of age, of illness. I also want to keep the deepest secrecy, a word that I underlined 3 times to tell you that no one must know anything about it. Of course, Peppina knew about it before we did, I think. But don't worry, she will keep the secret. When women have this trait, they have more of it than we men do. Anyway, if you are in the mood, then start to write," unquote. As it turns out, they were both in the mood to write, and compared to the on-again, off-again, 8-year marathon that was the creation of Otello, Falstaff came about somewhat more quickly, though at 4 years from start to finish, no one would accuse Verdi and Boito of rushing. For his part, Boito outdid himself with the libretto, although, as with Otello, he was awed and frankly terrified by the task of editing, altering, and adapting a play by the man, by Shakespeare, for the Italian opera stage. Early in the process, Boito wrote of his trepidation, and his words stand as an object lesson for anyone aspiring to write a libretto. We quote Boito, "I should like, as one sprinkles sugar on a tart, to sprinkle the whole comedy with joyful love." And Boito refers here to the relationship between Anne and Fenton, the young lovers, whom we will meet in due time. "During the first few days of writing the libretto, I was in despair. To sketch the characters, to weave the plot, to extract all the juice from the enormous Shakespearean orange without letting the useless pulp slip into the little glass, to write with color and clarity and brevity, to delineate the musical plane of the scene so that there results an organic unity, to make the joyous comedy live from beginning to end, to make it live with a natural and communicative gaiety, is difficult, difficult, difficult. And yet it must seem simple, simple, simple," unquote. Parenthetically, we should add that Boito's libretto for Falstaff is undoubtedly his finest work, and among the very greatest libretti ever written. The English writer Francis Toy committed what was, for many of his English brethren, an unpardonable blasphemy when he went so far as to write that, and we quote, "I would venture to assert that, on the whole, Boito's Falstaff is a better comedy than Shakespeare's The Merry Wives of Windsor. The action is less diffuse, the intrigue more tidy and concentrated," unquote. Once word inevitably got out that Verdi and Boito were working on another opera, Ricordi rather recklessly expressed his wish in a letter to Verdi that they work just a little more quickly. Verdi replied to Ricordi, and in a tone actually quite civil for him, he explained that at almost 78 years of age, he simply couldn't write as fast as he once did. We quote Verdi. "When I was young, I could stay at the desk for 10 or even 12 hours, even when I was slightly ill, working steadily. More than once I sat down at work at 4 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon with nothing more than coffee in my stomach, working right through without a break. Now I cannot. Then I was in command of my body and time. Alas, now I am not." Unquote. Yes, there were moments during Falstaff's composition that Verdi believed he was unequal to the task, moments when he was convinced that he simply wouldn't be able to finish what he had begun. Sometimes weeks, even months went by without Verdi writing a single note. On returning to St. Agata in the spring of 1891, after such a period of compositional poverty, Verdi told Giuseppina, quote, "Falstaff is pale and wan. Let's hope we can find some good capon to fill his paunch again." And then referring to himself, Verdi continued, "Everything depends on the doctor. Who knows? Who knows?" Unquote. Early on, Verdi and Boito began referring to the opera and its title character as Big Belly. In June of 1891, Verdi got back on track and wrote a worried Boito that he was getting back into the compositional saddle. We quote Verdi, "The Big Belly is back on the road to madness. I admit, there are some days when he does not move. He sleeps and is in bad humor. At other times, he shouts, runs, jumps, and tears the place apart. I let him act up a bit, but if he goes on like this, I will have to put him in a muzzle and a straitjacket." Unquote. Well, Boito was thrilled. He was overjoyed to hear that Big Belly was up and around and wreaking as much havoc as he chose to wreak. He wrote to Verdi in reply, and we quote Boito's letter, "Great! Let him do it. Let him run. He will smash all the glass and furniture in your room. It doesn't matter. You will buy more. He will break up the piano. It doesn't matter. You will buy another one. Let everything be wrecked so long as the opera gets done. Hurrah! Hit him, hit him, hit him, hit him. What pandemonium! But it is pandemonium that is as bright as the sun and as crazy as a madhouse. Hurrah!" Unquote. A marvelous letter, and a letter that betrays the sense of energy and joy that both Boito and Verdi felt in the creation of Falstaff. To think that Verdi waited this long in his life to write a comic opera and to show us his extraordinary comic chops in the process. A very different emotional state, we think, exists when one is writing a comedy than when one is writing such a tragedy as Otello. And certainly the spirit of Falstaff, both the person and the story, infused Verdi and Boito with a sense of joyful optimism and energy that we can only, be jealous of and envy them.